Hi, I'm Shanti, the artist behind Shanti Fine Arts. With time, more and more people are getting interested with oil pastels as a serious art medium. But a common question that I get asked all the time about oil pastel is how to get fine details with oil pastels. So in this video, I'm going to share all my tips, tools and techniques that I use to get. First and the most important tip to get fine details with oil pastels is to paint a little bit bigger. Here I have the same hummingbird painted in a bigger size and a smaller size, and I'm going to show you how I get fine details in the thorax area, and you will see what I mean. See, in the bigger version, when I'm trying to paint these smaller feather details, there is a lot of room, so I can easily get all the details that I want. It is easy to put in color, it is easy to blend. Just having a bigger area makes such a big difference. And then you can add more layers, that's easy too. And you don't have to worry about losing all the details that you have created in the underlying areas just because you are adding more colors and more blending. Entire process becomes so much easier when you are using a bigger area to paint with. Now let me try and do the same thing and with the smaller version of the same bird, and you will see how definitely difficult it becomes. So here I have a smaller area, so to paint the tiny feathers, yeah, it is okay to kind of get the smaller version, but then when you're blending, you're almost losing everything. And then you have to add back the details again, and you have to be very careful each time. And it's really difficult to work in smaller areas, so just paint a little bit bigger, then that would solve half of your issues. Next, I'm going to talk about how to get fine lines with oil pastels itself. Now, when you have your oil pastel brand new, it has sharp edges and it's easy to get fine details, fine lines, however small you want it to be, it's easy. But once it gets a little bit older and you've used it quite a while, then the sharpness is gone and it's pretty blunt. And to get the same line with the blunt edge is so much more difficult. See, once it gets blunt, it does not give you the fine lines anymore. So my tip is, when it gets blunt, use the other end of oil pastel. So I always paint with one end. So when I'm blocking color in a larger area, I would use this blunt end. And when I have to paint fine details, what I do is I peel off a tiny little portion of this back area, which still has the fine sharp edge, and then I paint with that sharp edge. And see, you can once again get very small lines, small details, and whatever you want to do with that sharp edge. So that's first of the techniques that I use with the oil pastels itself. The next technique I'm going to show you is how to use paint brushes to get fine details. Now say I want to paint thin lines and I'm not comfortable using the oil pastels itself, which is very understandable. So what I can do is I can take my oil pastels and then dip my paintbrush, a fine liner brush, in the Odorless Mineral Spirits, OMS, and then rub it over my oil pastels and get some oil pastels on the paint, and then you can paint as thin and thick lines as you want. It's just like painting with any other medium, and see how smoothly it flows. So let me show you how I can paint beautiful eyelashes on this eye, just using the same method. There you go. See, the finest detail that you could ever want to make is achievable in this way. The smaller strokes, the bigger ones, whatever you want to do. It's so much easier to use a paintbrush. This is a technique that I often use at the very end. And not only you can use a fine liner brush, but if you want like to cover a larger area, you can use the flat brush and use just the sides, and that would work as well. Another tool that you can use the same way is this blending tools. Now it has sharp edges. Mine has lost the sharp edge, but I will still be able to show you what I'm trying to say. So you can take your oil pastels and get a little bit of color by rubbing it on your tortillon or blending tool or blending stump or whatever you call it, and then paint fine details with it. You could get as thin lines as you want with it. That's simple. So that's another way too. Next, I'm going to talk about scraping, which is an excellent way to get fine details with oil pastels. This is lifting some of the paint instead of adding, and you can use a multiple number of tools for this. Like here I have some scraping tools that you use for clay modeling. I have 3 different kinds, and you can scrape paint with these and get lines and fine details. This is a very useful tool in painting bushes and grass and all that stuff. Or you can use the same technique for, like in this case, in this eye area, you can see that there, for the eyelash area, there's smudge of black or dark brown oil pastel, and I want to lift a little bit of that. And this time I'm going to use a toothpick and show you how I can lift a little bit of paint and expose the underlying area and get nice eyelashes that way. See how it works beautifully? Now you can work underneath in the bottom layer as well and get nice details there too. Instead of using a toothpick, you can also use the this kind of palette knife. It also has sharp edges, which will help you create nice scraping lines in the here I'm putting these lines in the eyebrow area. It's a little hard to see for you. I'm trying to do it with my left hand. I'm not a left-handed person, but you can still get the idea of what I'm trying to say about fine details. So lifting paint with these different kind of tools is also a way. You can use a razor blade as well. So you take out a little bit of the razor blade and you can do the same thing with that. If you have a smudge of paint in some area, it's easy to take that off with this. But if you're using razor blade, be very, very careful. These are extremely sharp and dangerous, and if you are not an adult, I would not recommend you to use that. So those are some of my scraping tools. So you can use either these kind of scraping tools or toothpicks or edge of a palette knife and even a razor blade. So all the different kinds of scraping tools. Now here's the last tip I have for you, is to use these oil-based color pencils. I have here a Polychromos from FaberCastel, and these are just great. They're oil-based, so you can very well use it with oil pastels and get as much thin lines, fine details as you want. And since they're oil-based, they're completely compatible with your oil pastels, and your work will still remain archival and all the good things. And you can yeah, it is oil pastel. It is not oil pastel, it's oil pencils, but you're using it sparingly just to get the very fine details. For example, say you're painting something really, really tiny and you cannot get it by any other means, so you can use these oil-based pencils. So that's a tip too. And all of the links all of the materials that I've used so far, I'll try to link them all in the video description below, so check them out as well. I hope you got a few tips or tricks from this video. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up and do share your comments about what more would you like to know. If you have any particular technique that you use and I forgot to mention, do let me know. I am always into learning new things. And do not forget to subscribe. So hit the button and smash the bell so that you get a notification every time I post a new video.